Most riders have sold at least one bike they wish they hadn't. You know the feeling. You let it go for something newer, something flashier, and 3 months later you're searching for the exact same model on Craigslist, wondering what you were thinking. These 7 motorcycles have a reputation for something quietly rare in this industry. Riders buy them, put serious miles on them, and then refuse, sometimes stubbornly, almost irrationally, to let them go. There's a reason for that, and it's not always what you'd expect. If you've ever been curious why certain bikes hold on to their owners just as much as their owners hold on to them, stick around, because a few of these might genuinely surprise you. And if you want more content like this, just riding alongside is enough. Honda NC750X DCT. Pull up to any stop-and-go traffic on the NC750X, and something becomes immediately obvious. You're not fighting the bike. You're just riding. Honda's dual-clutch transmission doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like a novelty. After about 20 minutes in mixed traffic, it starts to feel like the most natural thing in the world. No clutch hand fatigue, no stalling anxiety, no mental overhead, just momentum. That matters more than most riders admit until they've actually lived with it. The riding position is upright without being aggressive. Wind hits your chest rather than your neck. The low center of gravity, helped significantly by that underseat fuel tank and forward-mounted engine, makes U-turns and parking lot maneuvers feel genuinely relaxed. For a rider returning after years away from motorcycles, that confidence is worth more than any spec sheet number. Weekend trips on the NC750X tend to go quietly well, not dramatically, not memorably in the way a powerful sport bike is memorable, but you arrive calm, you're not sore, and you want to go back out the following morning. The honest limitation? Highway cruising above 75 miles per hour asks a lot of the engine. Wind protection is adequate, but not generous. Taller riders occasionally feel slightly folded after longer stints. But here's the thing. Most people who own one already know this and don't care. They're not chasing adrenaline. They found something that fits their life. And they stopped looking. Kawasaki Vulcan S. The Vulcan S does something that very few cruisers attempt seriously. It tries to actually fit you. The adjustable ergonomics system isn't marketing language. The foot pegs, handlebars, and seat position can be configured to match a surprisingly wide range of rider builds. For someone who spent years riding cruisers that were sized for an average that didn't match their body, climbing onto a properly adjusted Vulcan S feels almost like a personal correction. It's a cruiser that rides lighter than it looks. That parallel twin engine pulls smoothly from low RPM, which means city blocks and slow weekend traffic don't require constant clutch management. Touring-friendly power without the weight of a larger displacement machine. Picture a Saturday morning, gas station stop, full tank, mild weather, open state highway ahead. The Vulcan S doesn't create drama in that moment. It creates ease. That's what a lot of riders over 50 are quietly looking for and rarely admit publicly, where it becomes honest. The wind exposure on long highway stretches can be tiring without a windshield add-on. The stock seat works for shorter rides, but starts communicating itself to you around the 2-hour mark. Both are addressable. Neither is a deal breaker for the right rider. The right rider for a Vulcan S is someone who wants a cruiser with a human approach, not a motorcycle built to impress at a stoplight, but one that genuinely accounts for the person sitting on it. Yamaha XSR700. The XSR700 is a bike that looks like nostalgia and rides like a modern machine that's been keeping a secret. That CP2 parallel twin engine, the same architecture underneath the MT-07, delivers torque in a way that feels accessible rather than aggressive. You're not white-knuckling through city blocks. You're threading through traffic with a kind of quiet confidence that builds over time. The retro styling creates an interesting ownership dynamic. People stop and ask about it. Gas stations, parking lots, red lights. There's a social quality to owning an XSR700 that riders don't always anticipate, and most end up genuinely enjoying. Sitting on it, the weight feels well below the actual number. That's partly chassis design, partly weight distribution, but the real-world effect is that the bike moves where you ask it to without negotiation. For the rider who wants something that doesn't feel clinical or adventure bike serious, the XSR700 occupies a specific space that almost nothing else fills quite the same way. It's engaged without being demanding, stylish without being fragile about it. The seat height is real, taller than some riders prefer, especially with a heavier build or shorter inseam. Worth testing before committing. But for the rider it fits. It fits entirely. Moto Guzzi V85 TT. There is no other motorcycle that feels quite like a V85 TT. That's not flattery, it's just physics. The transverse V-twin configuration creates a rocking sensation at idle that some riders describe as mechanical breathing. The torque pulses through the foot pegs and handlebars in a way that's entirely its own. Either that quality connects with a rider immediately or it doesn't. There's very little middle ground. For those it connects with, something happens during the first real ride, usually somewhere on an empty two-lane road with light curves, where the bike stops being an object you're operating and starts feeling like something you're in a conversation with. That's difficult to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Owners of V85 TTs tend to stop trying to explain it and start suggesting people simply ride one. The adventure touring capability is genuine without being obsessive about it. Comfortable upright posture, reasonable wind management, storage options that handle weekend touring without drama. The honest part. Italian reliability has improved considerably, but maintenance intervals and dealer proximity remain real considerations depending on where you live. This is a motorcycle that rewards riders who enjoy the ownership relationship, not just a riding relationship. Two bikes remain. Both carry reputations that span decades. But the reasons riders refuse to sell them are more specific and more personal than the brand name suggests. Suzuki V-Strom 650. The V-Strom 650 has been quietly accumulating loyal owners for over 2 decades, and the reason isn't complicated once you've lived with one. It does almost everything well and nothing poorly. That sounds like a compromise until you're 3 hours into a solo ride across a state you've never crossed. The weather changed twice. You hit gravel on a back road, and the bike handled all of it without once making you feel like you were asking too much of it. That kind of range, physical, geographical, emotional, is what separates capable motorcycles from genuinely trusted ones. The V-twin engine is smooth and linear in a way that inspires confidence on unfamiliar roads. Seat comfort holds up longer than most competitors at this price. The low center of gravity helps at slow speeds and in parking situations. Wind protection on the base model is moderate but manageable, and the aftermarket for improvements is mature. Fuel range is generous. Service intervals are forgiving. Resale value holds with unusual consistency for a mid-displacement bike. What the V-Strom 650 rarely gets credit for is this. It makes riders feel competent. That's not a small thing. That feeling accumulates over miles into something that starts to look a lot like trust. And trusted motorcycles don't get sold. BMW R1250 GS. Pull up to a long-distance touring stop on an R1250 GS, and you'll notice something about the other riders standing next to their motorcycles. They're not just resting. They're talking about the ride they just had. There's a quality to the GS ownership experience that becomes difficult to separate from identity. It's not the most accessible bike on this list. The weight is real, the price is real. The learning curve through slow-speed maneuvers asks for genuine patience. None of that disappears. But once a rider and an R1250 GS develop a working relationship, the capability that opens up is unlike most motorcycles in any category. Long highway days that leave you less fatigued than expected. Mountain switchbacks that forgive small errors gracefully. Electronic systems that work as a safety net rather than an intrusion. The boxer engine's torque character has a rhythm to it. Push it out of a corner and the response is immediate but controlled. Familiar after enough miles. Almost comfortable in a way that only things you've spent serious time would become comfortable. This is not a motorcycle for someone returned to riding after a long gap and wanting immediate confidence. It rewards patience. For riders willing to invest that patience, it tends to become the last motorcycle they feel the need to compare anything else against. Honda Goldwing. Some motorcycles carry you. The Goldwing travels with you. That distinction sounds small until you're 8 hours into a 2-day run to the Rockies. Your passenger is still comfortable. You've barely thought about fatigue. And the only real question you're considering is where to stop for dinner. The Gold Wing is engineered around a specific philosophy that long-distance riding shouldn't cost you physically. The flat-six engine sits so low and so centrally that a motorcycle weighing over 800 pounds corners with composure that genuinely surprises new owners. The DCT option removes the last remaining physical variable. The audio system, the storage, the heated seats, the adaptive cruise. These aren't luxury additions. For the riders this motorcycle was built for, they're the point. There's a reason Gold Wing owners develop a particular kind of quiet confidence at fuel stops. They've already done 300 miles, and they know they have 300 more in them. Every motorcycle on this list earned its loyalty through the same basic mechanism. It gave riders something they stopped wanting to trade away: comfort, confidence, simplicity, character, trust. The bikes worth avoiding on this list are the ones that don't match your riding reality. If you're primarily doing short urban commutes, the Gold Wing is solving a problem you don't have. If you need low and light, the GS will work against you until it doesn't. And that learning period isn't for everyone. But if even one of these made you want to look up a used listing tonight, that reaction is usually telling you something worth listening to. Drop in the comments which one you'd keep forever. The answers are always more interesting than the ranking.